Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. I am Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo, and today we are going to talk about a few of the things that were in the news this week. We're going to take a in-depth look into Hangar Patch 11, then we're going to have another confession of a Star Citizen addict. Of course, somewhere in there we're going to have an update on that contest. The big news is next week. Next week on Monday, I will be sitting down with none other than Eric Wingman Peterson. And that should air next Thursday. I'm very excited to be able to interview Eric. He has been one of the people I've been chasing down for a while until I realized that man is busy. So finally, he's done with the actual summit. He's done with setting up the new office. Well, kind of, sort of. I'm sure there's still some things he has to take care of. But he's going to give me some time to sit down with him and possibly have a drink. Well, we will see. This will be done on Skype, I am sure. And I'm hoping the quality will be as good as Sandy's was. I'm sorry about David's quality. That had to do with me. But nonetheless, the actual content of the last week's video, the video interview was amazing. I loved doing the interview with David. He was awesome. So look forward to next week's show. So let's go on with what's going on this week. We saw the episode 3 of the Next Great Starship Contest happen on Friday night at 6 p.m. We had not 8 teams, but 9 teams in this particular episode. And the reasoning was 3 Dingo Productions, or I think it's 3 Dingo Industries. All right. They were very, very late, but still not outside of the actual, they made it just under the wire. Let's just say that. They were about a minute or two before midnight on the 31st. So 3 Dingoes was added into the competition. It gave us 9. So we had 9 players. So we're going to say 3 Dingo. We had Archon, Bioprosimian Productions, 4 Horsemen, Dragons of Nirvana, Sakura Sunset Microsystems, 1-Bit Amoeba. I'm sorry, when I say that word, I always think of my Amigas back in the 80s and 90s. Shard Collective, IXM. So those are your 9 players that went in. Right there and then, in the episode, they had to make a decision. Because they were a late entry, 3 Dingo Industries was either going to be voted in or not even be able to partake in the wild card. And they were actually voted in. So we now have our 15 teams, and this week's 5 additional, of course, was the 3 Dingo Industries, 1-Bit Amoeba, Shard Collective, Sakura Microsystems, and the actual 4 Horsemen. The wild card, which was decided on Sunday and we won't hear about until Friday, is going to be picked from these teams. Damage Association, Raging Vertex, those 2 very high energy German dudes. I think that's where they're from. Team Zeus, AEM, To the Stars and Beyond, Sakura Moon, and then this week's non-winners. I don't want to call them losers. They were still amazing. I hate using that word when we're talking about these people because everyone that's submitted to this has done an exceptional job. We have the last 4 being Team Bioprosimian Productions, Dragons of Nirvana, IXM, and Archon. So if you all voted like I did, that winner is going to be announced to us, hopefully at the beginning of the show, so we know what they're going to be doing for the contest this week. So that's the way I would expect to find out, is going to be at the very beginning of the show. We're going to see where things are going. Monday hit, 6 p.m. We had 10 for the chairman, from the chairman, I should say. And I'm going to pull out some of the more important questions. I'm not going to do all 10 because it can be very, very, very long. And I want to get to the Hangar Patch, okay? So one of the main questions I saw that made sense to me was about the organizations. Like, are they just going to be like a social element, or are they going to be able to do more? And we learned a lot here. They are going to be able to buy things like ships and hangars and other real estate like factories to produce things like weapons and maybe biofood stuffs. Who knows? It's going to be economic, and I think the word that he used was going to be Economic nodes, stations, derelict ships. Those are the things that they're going to be able to use. The next part about organizations was, are they going to be able to declare war on each other? The way Chris said is they might have disagreements, but you know, when two organizations in the world today have a disagreement, they don't war. They maybe have some covert things that go on, but they don't war. Surely not in UE space around places like Terra or Earth, but maybe in the lawless systems and maybe in some less controlled areas of the UE space. But why would you want to war with another organization? Well, come on, Chris. We like PvP, right? I think that's why we're all doing the show, so we could shoot each other. I think that's why we're so desperate for the DFM to come out. DFM questions. One of them was, is it just going to be one release, or is it going to be released modularly? When will I be able to fly my Aurora? He essentially said the single-seat ships are going to be released first. The single-seat ships are very, very specific. It's going to be the three original single-seaters. It's going to be the Hornet, it's going to be the Aurora, and the 300 series. That is what you should be able to be flying and shooting each other out of the sky in, out of space in. I've been playing War Thunder too much. As soon as this dogfighting module goes live. I can't wait. I mean, every time I see a Hornet or something in one of these videos, I just want to jump in it, and it's not happening. And War Thunder is not settling my urge. He had a question about Oculus Rift, and I've been looking at the Oculus Rift and other implementations like in some of the other games. I'm very interested in this, though I don't have my PC yet. And I think that the implementation for Oculus Rift, from what Chris is saying, is going to be well beyond just being able to look around and see what's around you. It might be an integral piece of the game should you have one. That's just making me want to go out and spend more money, isn't it? Inertia. Say my carrier crashes into an asteroid or gets hit. Do things get thrown around the inside? Chris said yes, they're looking on developing that. They're going to have an impulse created outside of the ship that moves through it if you get hit by things like asteroids or other ships that crash into you. And that leads to a lot more questions, like how would you know? And you know, I'm this physics person that's then thinks everything inside that ship that's not tied down has a different mass, and there's millions of calculations at that point on where things would go. Is that system going to fry when that happens? But obviously not. They're going to implement it probably in a less dynamic way that it affects everything differently. It's probably going to be affecting everything the same. Beam weapons. And I keep seeing this pop up from people, beam weapons. If you think about beam weapons, currently the lasers that we have in the game are like the lasers that we've had in most of the games all of our life. They shoot bolts, laser bolts, bolts of energy at things that are not continuous. A beam weapon, they have them in some of the EVE ships. They have a steady stream, something that maybe you'd see in a mining laser inside of this game. I don't know what the big deal is about it. A beam weapon, maybe it looks cool, but I don't know how they manage the damage per second on something like that. I'll take the bolts of energy over a beam if a beam is going to be too hard to introduce. But Chris actually countered that and said, no, we are thinking about beam weapons, but they're going to be on the larger ships, used against ships that move a lot slower. And then that makes sense. So I understand that. So we will have beam weapons. So you guys don't have to ask that anymore. It's been answered. And then a tough question to answer, which was actually jumped all over inside of the forums. What if I get attacked and my ship is not taken over, but I'm able to fend off the attack, kill my attackers, all my attackers? Do I get their ship? Chris said yes. Am I going to be a criminal if I get it? Did I steal it? And Chris said no. There'll be ways that they'll be able to tell you were attacked, you got it, defending yourself from this boarding. And then the questions start coming in, and the speculation, and the complaints, and the theories of people making use of this or abusing this. Chris was asked a question about, can I get that ship if I'm attacked? He wasn't asked, can I take his LTI? What if I'm a friend of his and he's just trying to transfer his LTI? What if I have an LTI ship and I'm trying to sell it to that guy and I just get him to hang out over there and I attack him and then he fends me off and he takes it? None of those parts of the question were in there for Chris. He asked the basic question. Speculation is fun, but it really gets out of control sometimes. In this case, I read a couple of threads that did. When you have a question, ask a developer. Go into the developer forums, find the place, put it there, and you're going to get an answer to the question. My guess is this is not going to be something that's going to be able to be abused, and anything that is abused is going to feel the full wrath of CIG down upon the person abusing a system such as that. I think we worry too much, and I think it's because the game's not out, so we have to talk about something. So if you need to talk about this because the game's not out, have at it. I'm not going to stop you. But I know for sure that when this game comes out, we're not going to have to worry about those things. We're going to be too worried about where to get our weapons upgrades, who's going to overclock, who's going to mod this, where do I get a better ship, how much money do I need? You know what I mean? So later on, we're going to have different questions. Right now, a lot of them are speculative because we're pre-alpha. We don't even have the alpha of a dogfighting module out yet. I guess I want to talk about my very own friend Radar. Don't really know him in person, but he made us this, aka Pappy Boynton, at Pappy Boynton in the RSI forums. He asked, are there going to be more dedicated dogfighters? Because a Hornet reminds us of an F-18 Hornet, which is a multi-role fighter. In today's world, a lot of the aircraft are multi-role. The F-22 is one of the few that actually has a specific purpose, which is long-range fighter interceptor air superiority. Sounds like multi-roles, but it's really one role. An F-18 could be an attack bomber, an anti-ship bomber, a close support bomber, a fighter, and a fleet air defense. Wild Weasel, jammer, it could do everything. And essentially, that's what a Hornet is in the game. We've seen versions that are stealth, we've seen versions that are command and control, and we've seen versions that are full-on military, and we've seen some militia versions of it. So multi-role. Are we going to see a dedicated dogfighter? And Chris said yes. That was the answer, and that's all we have to go on because that's as far as he went. There's going to be more dedicated dogfighters. That was again asked in Wingman's Hangar to Rob. The question was changed there by somebody else, and it was, when we're in Squadron 42, are we just going to fly the Hornet? And it came across, no, like in Star Lancer and Freelancer and Wing Commander and Privateer, you're going to have other ships to fly. Then I'm going to move on to the next thing that came out for me, which is Warhorse Productions, and this Kickstarter that Chris is promoting inside of the Comlink. And this game looks phenomenal. It's another CryEngine 3 game. It's open world, it's RPG, it's dynamic, it's sandbox, it's do whatever you want, it's follow the storyline, it's build your life inside of this medieval world. Probably modeled after England, right around, I'd say around somewhere between 1100 and 1300 AD. So maybe a little bit later, maybe. You can make your own weapons. Essentially, it's an attack on the MMO. It's all first person. Very gory combat, very, very skill-oriented, I'm sure. But it's just so gorgeous. And after reading the Kickstarter, go there, and watching the video, I'm definitely going to put some money up in this Kickstarter. I want to see this game get made in its full glory. This is going to be a beautiful game. So whereas Star Citizen is this open world, do anything you want, be anything you want, and you know, first-person combat and all this realistic stuff going on in sci-fi verse, this is doing it back in medieval England. Alright, the other things that came out of Wingman's Hangar, because that's where we are now, because we already talked about one, which was that Squadron 42 reference with the actual dogfighters. This movie playing behind me is with Aaron Roberts from Foundry 42. He's working on Squadron 42 with his team in Manchester, building the mission tree and building all the assets that Squadron 42 is going to need. And this, I could talk about this movie, but this is one of the few that you really need to go and watch, because they're not, these graphics, these conversations that are playing behind me are not going to be easily conveyed in a 30 to 45 second conversation with y'all here. I am very impressed by what I see here. I think Aaron has always produced amazing results with his teams. Look at Privateer 2 The Darkening, which he did without Chris. Amazing, amazing. And I can't wait to see the rest of Squadron 42. This is the real reason I got into Star Citizen, was for that type of game. And when I started reading more about Star Citizen, I got more interested in this part of the game. But impressed, loving it very, very much. There was a question that really touches home with me, because if you know, in my channel I do a lot of Kerbal Space Program videos. There's another one coming, more of the trials and tribulations of Jebediah and what's going on with him. But the scythe, if you look at it, is an asymmetrical design. Because the mass isn't exactly equally distributed in there, if you were to fire a rocket behind it, the thrust would actually be going on one vector, and let's just put it this way, the actual ship would probably turn, spin, and tumble when you fire that, because it's not balanced. So they asked, it's an asymmetrical design, how is it going to fly straight? And Rob just answered the question very honestly, with a lot of very complicated computations and thrusters firing unevenly to keep it flying straight. I'll give you an example of something today that has to deal with this. The F-16 Viper, or Fighting Falcon, or whatever you want to call it, is an inherently unstable aircraft. If you were to get rid of the flight computer in that thing, it would want to tumble over. Most of today's jet fighters are unstable, and the computer makes millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever it is, adjustments to all of the controls to keep the unit flying straight and level. So we can do it today in this world with jet fighters. They're going to do it tomorrow in this futuristic world that we have in Star Citizen. So yes, indeed, the scythe, 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 call it whatever you want, is going to fly straight and level and still be able to turn like crazy. I hope. I really do. These are some of the images that go along with that video from Foundry 42. So we're moving on from Wingman's Hangar. And they're actually pretty gorgeous, and they're showing you all the differences in, or not differences, the works in progress for that mining colony that was in that video. Pretty awesome work. I'm just going to let them go by up here. Alright, so we're going to get into the hangar patch, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. This hangar patch 11, and you see it behind me, it is mostly a maintenance patch. It adds functionality to the Cutlass, makes some changes inside of it. Turret works, there's some weaponry on it now, the hatch works inside. You're going to see all this working when we get into the ship. Huge update to the Freelancer, and it's because everybody has been complaining. First, in the concept, they wanted a different windshield, and then when the unit came out, they didn't like the windshield, so we got that one with all the ugly bars in it, whatever you want to call it, columns or separating bars. And now we have a new Freelancer, and you're going to watch the video and see it. Actually, there's a lot of work that's been done to it. There's a couple other minor updates to it. We'll talk about them in there. But then we had a little bit of love handed to us from a message that was put in the developers forum, and Wingman answered. There's something big coming to the hangar over the next couple of weeks. I think it's a new ship. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm going to go for. Why do I think this? The Idris, the Constellation, and the Freelancer are all due to either be released as in the Idris or get their variants, commercials, and brochures. Okay? These are the other two, the actual Constellation and the Freelancer. Those should be happening soon. Next Friday, a week from this Friday, the 28th, will be another release of none other than Jump Point, issue 14 or 15 at this point. Confession of a Star Citizen Addict. We're in week 4 this week. I will be reading another one at the end of the show. Next week is week 5. After that, I am going to have all 5 people that have had their confessions read have, I'm going to put up a poll inside of the SCAA forums on StarCitizenAA.com. You guys select the winner. The winner gets the Avenger. Hello Star Citizen fans, this is Nikki Batgirl D'Angelo here with Hangar Patch 11, a review in short. Well, it might not be that short. There are quite a few things to show you. So I'm going to turn around here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off motion blur. I do that by tapping the tilde key, typing in R_motion blur space equals space 0. I get better frame rate when I do this when I'm recording, and that's the main reason I'm doing it. Secondary reason is it makes me a little nauseous. So I'm going to walk over here to the updated version of the Cutlass. I'm going to pass by some other ships. There might have been some updates to them. I just don't see it. So this is our Cutlass, and I'm going to start at the front of the nose, and I'm going to do a walk around. Okay? And I walk around my ships like this. You can see that there's 2 weapons under the wings. The turret has been installed. As we walk around the back, we see the thrusters, both the vertical landing thrusters and the main thrusters. We see the back ramp. There is our main turret on top again, and the 2 Behringer lasers underneath the wings. I'm questioning the actual weapons that are attached to the turret up there. If this is a pirate vessel, if you were using the neutron guns, they have a very high impact value, meaning they're not really used for disabling ships, they're used for blowing them out of the sky, in this case out of space. I would guess that those would be something more in line with the Joker sucker punches that are installed on the Avenger. These weapons over here on the wing are more in line with I think should be in that turret, but I'm not sure. I don't know what CIG is doing at this point. Nothing is set in stone. I'm running at 1920 by 1080 because I need the frame rate to be high for my recording, but I have absolutely no problem being able to run this game at full 2560 by 1440 at this point. We're going to move up to the new way to get into the ship, and it's this little blue button over here. There'll be many of them in the ship. So we're going to hit it over here. There is currently absolutely no sound for the ramp lowering or raising. Something that has been corrected on the Freelancer over time, so I would expect it here. I'm not sure why there's 2 buttons when they both do the same thing. They're probably going to have different functionality, and I'll show you why I say that. So let's just turn around and look. There's been some material changes, it seems. Mostly with this wall, this bulkhead over here. And there's been some other minor changes that I really have to do a little bit of researching on to know exactly what happened. Can you run up here? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, let's get back down here and let's get to business. First thing that I can tell you is these jump seats actually work. So for those of you that are going to have the job of actually boarding another ship and taking it over, this is your luxury first class seating. You sit in the cargo area, pee in the cargo area, and sleep in the cargo area. Pretty fun. Probably need a weapons rack of some sort over here to stow the weapons while you're waiting to get close enough to a ship to board. Alright, this blue button over here. Oh, I guess you gotta be a little bit more accurate than what I'm doing right now. So we're going to do this and turn around, and now we're going to stare at the blue button. A little bit closer. There we go. And that is opening up our docking port. The docking collar probably will not be able to be seen for quite some time, but had we done this in space, the docking collar would have attached itself to the ship down below us and pressurized, so we'd have a safe way of getting onto the ship that we were disabling and boarding. So we're going to hit this blue button again. And watch that close. Not bad. Like it. So far, I'm liking the Cutlass again. Alright, we have two buttons here. Let's see what this bottom one does. Well, it didn't open the door, so let's turn around. Oh! It pulled down our turret seat. So let's go man the turret. And we'll use this opportunity to get a nice external view. Oh boy. It's very raw data in here. There's no HUDs or anything. Oh, but we do have our controls, and it looks like he's got a big grip on the actual two controllers, so that's a good thing. Let's go into third person mode. Spin around the ship. Now, one of the changes they made is that the mouse look feature, he's looking where you're actually pointing with your mouse. So you're going to move around the ship a lot more slowly than you did before. Yeah, these are definitely the neutron guns, the neutron cannons. This would not be a weapon that I would think I would have on my particular Cutlass if it was going to be a pirate ship. Alright, but nonetheless, let's do a little bit of this magnifying and demagnifying, zoom in and out. Alright, there's our shark's teeth, there's our crossed cutlasses, definitely a pirate ship. Let's go around the front. I still think it looks like some kind of a leopard or other kind of feline cat of prey, ready to leap at you. Maybe a leopard or a panther would have been a better name for this particular starship. Let's get out of here. Let's push the other blue button, because we have a few things that we want to talk about today. So the top blue button gets us into... I guess I want to be here. The top blue button's going to get us into the cockpit. Right? Yes. And there should be one on this side for us to keep the rear riffraff away from the front riffraff. I guess that keeps us pressurized while they're opening the docking collar. Outside of the heads-up displays, outside of the heads-up displays, I don't see much different up here. Everything seems to still be the same. We can still get into both seats. I haven't noticed any motion capture differences. And I'm going to look for them right now. And let's move the stick around. No, not all the motion cap is done right now, but it's pretty basic and working. So let's get out of here. My thought, and I'm sure it's many of you have already thought this, and you probably heard it in other threads. These rails down here kind of make me think that this whole cockpit will slide to the center after you get in to give you a more accurate look about what's around you once you get in the ship. I think that's what those rails are for. There's another blue button over here. And again, I'm going to have to get into first person. And we are... Oh, I must have opened it the first time. The upper hatch works here, but I did not find any kind of a ladder on the other side at this point. If anyone knows that there is one, just give me a jingle and let me know. I don't see it over here. I would expect there to be a way down from here if you were able to get up here. Oh, there it is. Silly me. There you go. You can get in the Cutlass now through the front ladder. Well, you get off of it and you can get on it. That's pretty cool. I'm happy about that. So the Cutlass has had its updates. You've got what looks like the Bearing Mark IIIs or Mark II lasers down here. And you have the neutron cannons up there. There is no second turret back here for the tractor beam yet. But all in all, the Cutlass has gotten some pretty nice love. So we're going up, and I'm going to do what we did with the last one. I'm just going to park back here. Believe it or not, I'm bringing the buggy up here because I have 2 reasons for using it in the very near future. So I'm going to do my walk around. I'm going to start off over here on the 90 degree. I'm going to try to do a full walk around. I love the Freelancer. It has that very sci-fi look. I've made fun of people that think it looks like the Serenity, but I am one of them. I love this ship. And I think that the love that they gave this ship in this patch, especially that windshield that we see right there with the greater visibility, has brought even more beauty to this ship. I can't wait to get into this thing and fly it one day. It is truly going to be an amazing vessel. There is no blue button on it, so we cannot get in it through the rear that I know of. Going underneath it or whatever does not give you a use button. I'm sure there will be something in the future. You can see a little light leak through there, which is, if I could see light, there's probably air. My cargo hold is not airtight. That's going to be very, very bad. I'm sure they'll tighten things up as they go to PBR and start using real materials or virtual materials in building some of the seals on these craft. We're going to go up and we're going to turn around and look at the changes. It looks shinier, more reflective. The metals look a little bit different. And I'm wondering if it's my graphics settings that I've been able to increase ever since I increased my RAM to 16 gigs. It doesn't look like there's a lot of difference with these displays over here, though I do sense a tiny bit of a difference. Maybe from the original Freelancer, not from the last version. As we walk forward, it's the same old beautiful bathtub. Shower stall. There's a towel rack back there. We still can't get in it. The port and starboard side science stations are stowed, unlike the last time we were on the ship where they were not stowed. Alright, we're looking around a little bit. We come up. The science station's over here. Looks like they have different seats. And there's the cockpit. It's just amazing. An amazing update. So let's go and grab onto the yoke here. Let's look down and let's do some flying of this spaceship and see what happens. There are no rudder pedals on this ship. Everything is done. That would be your rudder right there. That will be your pitch. And that will be your roll. I wonder what throttle is. Maybe he has some kind of a trigger or something else that he pulls. But there's got to be a way for there to be throttle on this device. I like it. Okay, let's look at the visibility now. Look right. I think we have much more visibility. And once they add the heads-up displays in here, it's going to be a much different story. Remember, the heads-up displays could show us what's beyond these bulkheads over here. So they could fill in the space that's being blocked by some of the structure. It is of course, 2944 at this point, right? So these things can happen. So we're looking around. I like it. Let's go into third person mode, see if anything weird happens here. Alright, so let's go up a little bit. Let's come around the little Archibald. He's going to be looking away from us for a little bit. Oh, he's got kind of an aura around him. I wonder if that's my graphic card or something broken. There'll be a lot of bugs in this patch, as there were a lot of updates, and they'll be worked out over the next few weeks. There should be another major patch, like I said, coming soon. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, the texturing of his head. Well, this is where I want to go and use this. Alright, I'm pretty happy with this. I don't like the fact that he has to push up like that. He shouldn't have to move his whole body to move the craft. Maybe the yoke just has to be pulled a little bit closer to him so that doesn't happen. But who cares? It's not really going to affect gameplay. I'll be using the joystick on my desk, not actually be sitting in that beautiful starship. The windscreen looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. This is a well-needed upgrade. And definitely looks like there's probably a bigger sunroof in it. Alright, let's go back and get out of the seat and see if we get stuck like we did the last time when we did our review of the Freelancer. Nope. We get right out. So one of the other things that were changed here is you could actually go in the turret. Nah, just kidding. You can't do that. Views to go through on this thing. But when you push the F key to open, it actually matches up with everything. Alright, so I have that opened. And we're going to talk a little bit about the buggy before we leave the Freelancer and go on to fire some weapons. Yes, we like to fire heavy weapons every now and then. The buggy had some updates. You used to be able to jump off the buggy while it was still moving, and you'd kind of fall through it to get out of it. First thing is, because of the look function that they changed, I can't go and see around the front of it. I'm not sure if I was able to before. The buggy does seem a little bit more controllable. Maybe it's just I've actually had my opportunity to use it a little bit more. Alright, so I'm going to try to do this right. I'm going to jump into the back of the Freelancer. And one of the things that were in the patch notes are, you will not be able to get out of the ship, out of the buggy, if there's no room, there's no room next to you to get out. It really does take away some of the fun of having a buggy and a Freelancer. I cannot put my buggy in the Freelancer and get out. They need to fix this. We're at the holo table. It's not crashing when you click on it, though I did get a couple of crashes. They said that was fixed, but I've crashed twice since testing out the Hangar patch before doing tonight's run through of it. The third one I've done, let me tell you. We're going to go up to the holo table, and I'm going to step back, and you'll see that everything looks just a little bit different. The fonts look to be a different font at this point. So, of course, the way that you use the holo table is you hit the tab key to get up the cursor, drag your ship or weapons test rig in there, hit the tab key to let it swing around a little bit. When it gets to the position that you want, hit tab again, drag over weapons, and we are going to populate this with the CF 007s, the Bulldogs. Hit tab to get out, hit F to close, and let's go over. Alright, here we go. We are now getting into our weapons test rig. Now this is supposed to be fun. The last time I did this, there was absolutely no sound. I wish I had a target reticle, but I can still hit the closest one. and the furthest one. It's supposed to be something that tells us when you overheat the weapon too. I wonder if it's that green dot on there. And we're firing the CF007 laser repeater. Alright, so when you look at the weapon, you could see all of the parts articulating, everything moving in the way it's supposed to. This is a gimbaled mount, kind of like what's going to be on a lot of the ships. So it's going to be able to lead and lag behind the target to make up for whatever errors in targeting that you have. So this is the laser repeater. Let's go back and get a laser cannon. Okay, differences between a repeater: smaller charge in each bolt, but it fires much faster. A cannon, much more charge in each bolt, but it fires much more slowly. So we come over here, drag in the weapons test reg, go to weapons, drag off, and drag on the M4As, which are the big ones that are on the Constellation. These aren't the small ones. And we get off of it. These make a different sound. They don't leave as much scorch marks as I've seen. They pack a wallop. There's probably going to be much more powerful weapons as we go on. The weapon works just like the other one did. One of the cool things here is you can bounce. I've been trying to set up bouncing shots. You'll see it hit the back guy over there every now and then. But what I'm trying to do is hit the... I've been trying to hit the guy just to the right over there with it. And I haven't been able to. But this is the weapons test firing rig, and it's pretty cool. You'll see it only takes a couple of hits, if you could hit it, to knock down the targets instead of repeatedly hitting them 10 or 12 times like you did with the laser repeater rifle. But you get an idea of what the weapons are going to sound like, how they're going to function. I thought we were going to have some kind of readout of weapons overheating. Maybe that's going to be coming with a later patch. There's not a lot else to show you except for a couple of bugs. And I'm only going to pick on one here. And let's see if it happens. I'm going to walk up onto the ladder. I'm going to go into third person mode. And I'm going to look down and show you. I go through. And if I keep moving, I'll be alright. And I can get in. Yesterday, 90% of the time, I was falling right through the floor. And I had to actually get the buggy onto the elevator to come up with me so I can get out at the top of the elevator and get up here. There were some changes listed over here, but they were in that foot locker. And supposedly there was a clipping error with the foot locker before. And I didn't see that in mine, but I was able to jump on top of my foot locker. And sometimes actually manipulate it so I can jump off of the top of the balcony up here. You're no longer able to do that. For some reason, they're taking away a lot of the ability for us to jump more than, well, what in real life would be just a couple of feet. I always come up to this just hoping they'll have female characters or something else on here. I know it's a pipe dream. Here's your foot locker, which I'm sure is going to have a lot more use. I would see this more as a weapons locker. I hope they don't leave it with all this other gear. I hope it's all certain types of weapons. But I was able to jump up here before, and I cannot do that anymore unless there's a different way to do it. But if there was any kind of clipping through it, oh, I could. But it's just harder. If there was any other kind of clipping going on up here, I haven't seen it, though I did just see what looked like he clipped through it that time, right? And it's not going to work. Let's go look at the fish. I come over here every now and then looking for something different in here, and I just never see it. It's probably staring right at me, right? I don't see it. Well, that's it for Hangar Patch 11. I'm really excited about the next Hangar Patch because if Eric is telling us that there's going to be something in there that we're all going to love, I have a feeling that it's going to be more like we're going to obsess about. Holy moly, my hangar's getting big now. Be warned that 2 of the ships in my hangar, the Cutlass was loaned to me by Captain Gloom, the Enabler's logistics officer, the division head of logistics, and she let me have the ship to actually do this review. The Avenger, all the way down there at the end of those 3 ships. You got the Connie up front, the Freelancer, and then the Avenger. That's the one I'm giving away for the Confession of a Star Citizen Addict contest. Well, I'm done with Hangar Patch 11. I hope all of you stay tuned for the next Confession of a Star Citizen. And please get the word out that Eric Wingman Peterson will be on the show next week. Until then, you guys have a wonderful week. Hello, my name is Paul and I'm an addict. I heard about Star Citizen while I was playing X Rebirth. Actually, not so much playing, but watching a Let's Play YouTube video on the game. The guy in the video happened to casually mention his opinion on other games in the same genre. In his list, he passively mentioned Star Citizen. Man, if I only knew where that one comment would have led me. I might have had a chance to avoid the addiction. But alas, fate was sealed that day. A Google and a little over $100 later, I was tasting my very first ship, a Freelancer. At first, it was pretty casual. I thought it was pretty neat, but the game won't be live for a while, so I can just let this sit in its hangar and come back about a year from now and see how things have progressed. If only I could have waited, but no, I met a few other addicts. Soon I was hanging out in delis with them. One asked me, "Hey, you gonna get other ships?" I told them I would wait. They replied, "But if you miss your opportunity to get a good ship now, and they take these ships off the market later on in the game?" Then, the old bug of the original Freelancer purchase bit me. Yeah, I might like one of the current ships, and what if they do stop selling the one I like? So, now I try to casually browse the pledge page. I keep thinking to stay calm in my head. Don't let anyone see how excited you are. You might come off as some kind of a freak or a space nerd, but my eyes have already betrayed my attempt at a calm exterior. I eye the Cutlass and the Hornet Ghost. My mouse palm index finger gets a funny twitch. But no, I really want a Caterpillar. Do I buy a Cutlass or a Ghost now? And wait to get the Caterpillar, hoping beyond hope that they will allow us to buy it? Should I save my money so I can afford the cat later? My God, why does this seem like such an important decision?